Hello, everybody, and welcome to the PHLY Eagles podcast. Bo Wolf, Zach Berman, back in Studio B for Bo. How are you, Zach?
Doing great. Excited for the show.
You had a chance to talk to the coordinators today. We'll talk about that. We are going to take a little bit of a look back at some of our preseason predictions, see how we fare after 5 games into the season. We're going to talk to Brian Baldinger in a little bit, get his take on some of the things happening in the trenches for the Eagles. What else is going on in your neck of the woods? We got the reviews from Emily Berman on Studio B. She thinks it's looking good.
More importantly, we got the reviews from the audience. Well, she's among the audience, so I shouldn't say more importantly. But yeah, I like Studio B.
I hope she doesn't take offense to that.
I know. I think I'm a little closer to you today than I was yesterday.
I think every day we grow a little bit closer.
Yeah, no, I like this studio. I came rushing over here from the coordinators, heard Brian Johnson,
police
Sean
escort,
Desai.
it sounded like.
No police escort. Sean Desai and, of course, Michael Clay had talked about.
What's up with the long distance between Michael Clay and Brian Johnson?
Brian Johnson has meetings, gets out of his meeting, I think, around noon. So that's why there's that lull there, and it's a good time for me to talk to the other writers.
Yeah, what did you learn from the other writers today?
I'll save that for after the show. I don't think we were on the record.
I think you're always on the record. You can't. Did EJ have a response to his name drop in yesterday's podcast?
EJ did not mention that yesterday. Yes.
Okay.
But I did talk to EJ, and I spoke to Josh, and I spoke to Olivia. Yeah, it was very nice.
Okay. What did you learn from the coordinators?
Well, so a few things. Sean Desai, the blitzing that we've discussed, he said a lot of that had to do with the opponents that they faced, right? I mean, it's been their highest blitz percentages. And he said they're always trying different things with the defense, but you also have to consider the opponents too. So think about the quarterbacks they might have faced or the offensive lines these past 2 weeks. I think you made a good point yesterday that with kind of new personnel in there, it's sometimes easier to say just run toward the quarterback. He didn't mention that, but I thought that was a good observation.
Somebody brought up the Orlando Scandrick Jets game.
Yes, I like that.
Response to that.
Yes. So that's one thing that came up. You and I were speaking, or texting rather. I should be more clear before the coordinator spoke, and yeah, you were curious about the usage of the defensive tackles, which we'll speak to Baldy about. And he mentioned he kind of gave a generic answer. He said something that they go over with Tracy Rocker. They like to cycle those guys through. Didn't give a succinct answer as to why Milton Williams took the work over Jordan Davis, but my guess is that they like Milton Williams in that pass rushing role more right now than Jordan Davis. We'll certainly learn more there. And so that was some from Sean Desai. From Brian.
Anything on the impending return of Nakobe Dean?
So he was actually asked the question that, well, I don't think we talked about. You see, you and I talk so much. I forget if we talk in the studio or like in the studio or outside the studio.
In our dreams.
Not in our dreams. But I said, do you think there's a chance Nicholas Morrow could take over or could still have a role post Nakobe when Nakobe Dean gets back? And he was asked that question, and he said they'd like to have a role for everybody. He kind of gave a generic answer. But my guess is it'll be Nakobe Dean in there. And he did make a reference that, like, these are things that were always kind of, when I asked about the Fletcher Cox absence and why they went to D-tackle rotation, he said something that they've dealt with each week, and this week something that they'll get DJ Elliott in on, which makes me think that Nakobe Dean's close to returning, if you kind of read some context clues there. So that was Sean Desai. Brian Johnson.
I feel like I would not be interested in going to watch a concert by DJ Elliott, you know? Not super interesting.
Watch a concert by DJ Elliott because he'd be a DJ.
Yeah, like not a very good name for a DJ.
Well,
no offense to Elliott Shore Parks.
Yeah, exactly. He's a 1T.
DJ Elliott is, I think we can do better.
Who's your favorite DJ?
The one from Full House.
DJ Tanner?
DJ Tanner.
Okay.
I think that she has turned into something of a wacko these days. So I could be wrong. I might take that back. I'm going to have to think of a different DJ.
I'll go DJ Jazzy Jeff.
DJ Jazzy Jeff.
Yes.
That's good.
And I liked Greg Bishop's story in Sports Illustrated where he spoke to DJ Jazzy Jeff about his relationship with Jalen Hurts.
Where does Greg Bishop rank on your national writer Mount Rushmore? Is he in your top 4?
He's tied for top 1. Yeah.
You're not going to give me a top 4?
I'll give you top. I think Greg Bishop and Seth Wickersham are as good as it gets in terms of those features. Yeah, those are two guys who I look up to.
You're not going to get.
Well, there's
give me 2 more.
There's different styles, and
I'm asking for Rushmore.
Well, that's the thing. There's like the Peter King Monday morning columns, which I love. Right? I mean, I love Shio Kapadia's
I was going to say, I love. Noticeably absent so far.
I love Shio Kapadia's picks. Shio Kapadia's picks every Thursday. So I try to take things from different writers. I like Albert Breer's column, but I'll say that Seth Wickersham and Greg Bishop to me are when I say appointment reading, when one of their stories comes out, I literally stop what I'm doing, and I read. And I could tell you, for instance, when Seth Wickersham, Sean Payton's story came out, I was in the middle of working on something, and I stopped that work and read it right away.
That could be interpreted in many different ways. Let's say that Seth Wickersham and Greg Bishop drop something on the exact same day at the exact same moment. Who's you reading first?
I'll probably have one on my computer, one on my phone, and I would.
That doesn't work.
I would alternate paragraphs. So
no, you wouldn't.
Yeah, I'm not choosing between.
Let's say the Wickersham story is about.
Oh yeah, I guess the subject matter would determine.
Okay, let's say the Wickersham story is about.
Are we doing this?
Let's call it Frank Reich.
Okay.
And the Greg Bishop story is about. Let's say Tua.
No, Tua. I would probably read the Tua one because I have more to learn about Tua than Frank Reich.
Okay.
But so back to the coordinators. Brian Johnson, he didn't get much in the detail about why Jalen Hurts ran. Kind of spoke about how that's like always part of the skill set. Did acknowledge they need to fix the red zone. It's something that they're always looking at. I followed up with distinguishing between the high red zone and the low red zone, and I'm going to ask Baldy about that too, because I think part of their issue is particular to the high red zone. They seem to stumble up there.
Yeah, I mean, we are dealing with sort of a small sample size. They've had 4 or 5 goal to go situations that have started at like the 9 or 10 yard line, which makes it a little bit more difficult. But I also just think that we can trust, like, aesthetically and by the eye test, that it just doesn't seem like there's quite the same level of sophistication right now.
They like the way Sua played, in particular against Aaron Donald. The third receiver, he didn't get. I didn't want to say like, well, why is Quez playing over Alambade, because that discussion, Nick Sirianni discussed it.
And Sirianni talked about it yesterday during our show.
Yep.
About how, Quez brings those clear out routes. Exactly. His speed is real, but.
So I asked specifically what he looks for in that third wide receiver, right? And he acknowledged that, like, you're not going to get the same amount of targets, right? So you just kind of have to fit within that role. But those were some of the things that came up. They have a difficult assignment this week in Quinnen Williams. Someone said, I feel like you're sitting closer together than my wife and I do at our anniversary dinner. I do feel like we're sitting close together too.
I don't think we're that close.
Yeah, we are a little close. I think it was where this
is it making you uncomfortable?
A bit, yeah, a bit.
Classic. This is like the very, very classic Zach retro masculinity. He can't not be comfortable sitting close to another man. We're not even that close.
I thought our knees were touching, but that's actually the table. I'm touching the table.
That's what you think.
Yes. So those are some notes from the coordinators.
You have literally just backed off. You have just backed away from me.
Yes.
For the audio listeners.
Yes. I will have more on all PHLY.
He's moving. He continues to move to the side.
I will have more.
What are you so scared of?
I will have more on allphly.com. I saw you holding cough drops yesterday. So maybe I'm trying to be a little careful.
I don't think that's what's going on here.
Yeah, I'm trying to be careful. I mean, I need to make sure I'm healthy. It's only week 6. Mm-hmm. I can't get ill in week 6. That's usually like a week 14, week 15 thing.
Get it out of the way, though.
True. And then I have the annual March, like 1 month cough that I get.
Yes.
Yeah. Hopefully not anymore, because I have a daily show. So.
Well, if it happens, it happens, Zach. Before we get into our sort of look back at our predictions from before the season, the NFL season is going strong. It's week 6, like Zach just said. And DraftKings Sportsbook is hooking new customers up with an offer that is even stronger. Bet $5 on any game this week to score $200 instantly in bonus bets. And DraftKings isn't stopping there. All customers can take advantage of a sweetener offer every game day this October. Discuss upcoming game. Discuss upcoming game. Well, the upcoming game for the Eagles is the Jets. And the Eagles...
You pulled a Zach, by the way.
I did pull a Zach. And if you are thinking of like betting trends, we all know that no greater trend than the Eagles have never lost to the New York Jets. It is the longest running such domination without a single win in NFL history. No other team has not beaten another team among the 32 teams right now. So, you want to bet on that continuing, by all means. And you can get in on the game day greatness by downloading the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and using code PHLY. New customers can score $200 instantly in bonus bets when you bet $5 on the NFL. That's code PHLY only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, licensee partner Golden Nugget Lake Charles in Louisiana, 21 and older, age varies by jurisdiction, void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See sportsbook.draftkings.com/football terms for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources.
One call out I want to make. Well, there's 2 quick call outs. First off, shout out to Rich Hoffman, our outstanding newsletter writer. That thing drops in my inbox.
Rich.
Yeah, that thing drops in my inbox and love reading it.
Even if you were in the middle of a Seth Wickersham story, you would drop what you were doing to get to the Rich Hoffman newsletter.
Yeah, I think it's conversational. It covers what happens the night before. Gets in a lot of different things in there. So
fantastic.
Yeah, make sure you subscribe to that. I also want to, if you're
writing every night, Rich, what a workhorse.
That sounds like a dream to me. Writing every night.
Want to switch places?
I'd love doing a show with you.
Okay.
Yeah. In speaking
I don't think Rich would be so worried about sitting close to me.
And speaking of writing, one of the perks of our diehard tier is that you have access to this Discord. And I'm on the Discord, we're having conversations with the diehards. And one of the things I put out on the Discord today was I'm curious from the audience, the game preview that Bo and I do, that we've done different versions of it now for 5 years together. And we've done email exchanges, we've done like by sections. We used to call it the cheat sheet.
Beat back and forth.
The beat back and forth. And so one thing I put out to the Discord today was, do you want the email exchange? Because I've heard some feedback there. Or do you want it by sections? When the Eagles are on offense, when the Eagles are in defense, something I learned from the locker room, something, a number to know in our predictions. And I received some feedback this morning that people like the sections because it's kind of more organized. Some people like the email exchange. So I'm curious if you're watching live, or even if you go back and watch, you can email me at zach@allphly.com. But let us know, because we're always troubleshooting, trying to figure out the best way to give you the content that you want.
And this is the classic Zach Berman dilemma, is that you take so much weight with every single piece of feedback you are given by any person.
That is true.
And so if there is conflicting feedback in any way, it is a real sort of death spiral for you.
It sounds like you're my therapist here or something. Yeah, it's true. I listen to everything.
Right.
Yes.
No matter the source.
Yes.
Like you don't necessarily not to downgrade anybody, but you do not consider the source. Every single piece of feedback is given equal weight, it feels like. And I think that this is probably an exciting opportunity for those of you who are considering joining the Discord, because you can truly affect Zach's life and well-being by having the opportunity to give him feedback that he will give maybe a little bit more weight to than if you were just commenting on Twitter.
But that I read everything. Everything. You know how coaches
Some
say,
guy was coming at you for the travel wear.
Yes. Yeah. You know how coaches say, like, oh, I don't read anything? You're like, no, if I was a coach, I would walk in and I'd be like, you wrote this today and you wrote this today. I like the 14th paragraph in that story. That was a good point, but that requires a little more nuance. If you write that next time, text me ahead of time and we can talk it out. That's what I would do if I was a coach. But no, it is true.
Dizzying.
It's not dizzying. I have one of my favorite poems is on my desk, "If" by Rudyard Kipling, and there's a line in there: "If all men count with you, but none too much." I think I have the "If all men count with you" down, but not the "If none too much" down. So,
okay,
yeah.
Well, I think it's a fun, it's a fun part of your personality.
Yeah, so leave your comments here. You can email me. You can comment. By the way, while we're on that subject. If you listen on audio, comment on iTunes. I check all those out. If you're watching on YouTube, put the comments on YouTube. I'm always looking for feedback to make this show better.
And I'm counting on Zach to let me know what feedback there is because I am not reading it.
Fair enough.
Because that's not why I'm here.
Yep.
All right. Zach, one of the very last pieces of content we produced at our last place was our sort of superlative predictions for the season. And so I want to sort of check in here now that we are a third of the way through the regular season.
Are we a third? It was framed as Sirianni a quarter. The 17 games makes it. Are you just past the quarter, or are you approaching the third here?
I mean, literally neither. Yeah,
yes.
it's okay. Between the two.
So probably a third.
I'm just saying that we're basically a third of the way through. Yeah.
Okay.
But it's interesting to just sort of check in. I mean, it has literally only been a month since we wrote this article before the season. So tell me how you think we both fare in our answers here. So the first one was most likely to get his or her first Pro Bowl nod. And you went with Dallas Goedert. I think for all the reasons that we've talked about. Remember last year he may have made it, but he wasn't eligible because he was on IR at the time. You said he must remain healthy. And the targets will be split with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, but it's hard to see a scenario in which Goddard is not a top-of-the-league tight end.
Yeah, so I stand by this, and I actually think he's going to be in Pro Bowl contention because if you play fantasy football, and I imagine a lot of you do, you know it hasn't been a great year for the top tight ends. Like the top tight end in the NFC right now is Sam Laporta, a solid rookie for the Lions, but...
And you did a good job here making sure to shoehorn in your boy. You said
Kyle
the competition of the NFC includes George Kittle, T.J. Hawkinson, Darren Waller, and Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, so those four haven't been exceptional either this year. So I still think there's chance for Dallas Goedert to finish near the top of the NFC and the top of the NFL among tight ends. So I actually stand by that. Didn't look good through the first 4 weeks, but he had that big game this past week.
Do you think... water gun to your midsection right now, you would bet on Dallas Goedert making the Pro Bowl?
Yes.
Okay. Very expansive. Thank you for that.
No, I just said. I thought we saw last week what's going to come.
Okay.
I think I asked Brian Johnson about this today, the yards after the catch, and they did some things to get him ahead of steam, which I'll take a whiff here. I got the odorant on. Okay. That I said this on last week's show. When everyone was saying, what's going on with Dallas Goedert's production? I was saying, you got to go deeper into the numbers. It's not about targets. It's not about catches. It's about yards after the catch. And I got that from I spoke to Dallas Goedert about it. He told me what needed to happen, and it happened, and he had the big game. So if you want to know what's going to happen, listen to the PHLY Eagles podcast.
And read Zach's stories on allphly.com. I said I didn't want to double dip. Goddard was a good answer. A very, very smart classic Bo Wolf thing here where I sort of mentioned several possibilities. I said there's probably a good opportunity for DeAndre Swift. I said Reed Blankenship could ride an Eagles wave to the Pro Bowl. I said Jalen Carter will have the name recognition if he has the kind of early season impression some teammates expect him to, but I went with Devontae Smith, who could establish himself as a bona fide superstar in his third season. Looking back at that now, I would say that of the four that I mentioned, Devontae is probably like the third or fourth most likely. I would say that DeAndre Swift and Jalen Carter are probably more likely to make the Pro Bowl.
At this point, I would say so, and there have been some really good receivers in the NFC this year. Although Justin Jefferson on IR now, that certainly affects things.
Yeah. Now, obviously, like we got a long way to go. If A.J. Brown misses time, Devontae Smith's numbers maybe go up, and you're talking about his chances raising. Starter we are not paying enough attention to, Zach. You said I am probably supposed to say Josh Sweat for old time's sake, but instead you're going with Avonte Maddox, who was limited to 9 games last season because of injuries and was not himself upon returning. The Eagles need him healthy and playing at a high level because it's a position where they lack depth. Very incisive. That was apparent last season in Maddox's absence, and Mario Goodrich appears to be the top option entering the season. James Bradbury received work in the slot during training camp, but Philadelphia needs Maddox on the field, looking like the player it signed to a contract extension 2 seasons ago. Great insight. What analysis.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, if you want to know what's going to happen, read Zach and Bo. I don't know. That sounded a little too pompous for me to say. But I stand by that. That's someone that they needed. The injury had a major effect on them. And we've seen now it hasn't cost them wins, but we've seen during the past 3 games how much that they didn't have a succession plan or a backup plan at that position. So, yeah, I think that was a good answer, and that's a player who deserved more attention, and he certainly got attention with him out of the lineup.
But I also think that this is a good elucidation of this was a problem that was foreseeable.
Yes. Well
and
said.
In terms of the roster building, they try to plan for every possibility and inevitability, and not having a better plan at backup nickel. Now, maybe their plan was there's going to be a veteran who shakes loose, a guy like Bradley Roby from somewhere, and we will always have that option. But I think internally, it's fair to criticize them for not having a better plan for what happens if and when Avonte Maddox gets hurt.
Sure. Now, I did think going into the summer, Zach McPherson was that plan, a third-year player, former 4th-round pick, someone that they like. But Zach McPherson getting injured in the Baltimore game really kind of threw things off because they didn't have much depth thereafter.
My answer here was less about the player we're not paying attention to and more about the Hassan Reddick injury. Were we not making enough of the thumb? And I think that was maybe partially on the nose, but also he has shown that maybe we were too worried about it to begin with. So
talk about someone who has his thumb on the pulse of the team.
Wow. How about that?
See what I did there?
Another good call here from Zach on the backup most likely to make an impact. Josh Jobe. The Eagles are relying on 230 and over cornerbacks on the outside. They have both remained durable, so age does not necessarily mean injury. But if that happens, or if Maddox goes down and Bradbury moves inside, Jobe is the next man up as an outside cornerback.
I want to say I didn't tell Bo to go based off this, but with each successive anser. This is like boosting.
Feeling pretty good, yeah.
I got to be honest. I usually leave these shows feeling worse about myself than when we started. This is the first show in 5 years that I feel better about myself than when we started.
I think this is an important lesson for you, Zach. Don't listen to the other people. Listen to yourself. Get the worth and value of yourself from within. A lion does not concern himself with the opinions of the sheep, as Jalen Hurts might say.
Yes, and I say, who's the sheep here and who's the lion, right? Mm-hmm. So that answer, I think that has come to bear. Obviously, Josh Jobe was on the field. He is the top outside corner. And the other thing, by the way, is it's not just a Maddox injury, and we saw Bradbury out for 1 game this season already, but Darius Slay might go down. Yeah, I should say might go down. Darius Slay could go down. James Bradbury could go down. Josh Jobe is the top guy on the outside, and that's not changing. So I think we'll see more Josh Jobe as the season progresses.
Now, here I mentioned Christian Ellis, but really zeroed in on Sidney Brown and said presumably one of Terrell Edmonds or Justin Evans will start alongside Blankenship in week 1, but the safety pairing will feel like a waiting game for Sidney Brown until defensive coordinator Sean Desai calls for the rookie. Could this go the way it did with Nakobe Dean a season ago when the 3rd-round pick everybody loved remained a backup because the team was rolling? Maybe. But for a defense that figures to take a step back, that level of consistency feels unlikely. Sidney Brown's balls to the wall style might invite big plays for the opposition in equal measure, but he offers the most difference-making potential at the position. I sort of stand by that. It still feels to me like I do think that Justin Evans is better enough than Terrell Edmunds to make a difference, but I still believe that over the course of the second half of the season, I would not be surprised if we start to see much more Sidney Brown.
They should hope so. And I actually like some of what Justin Evans is doing. I give him credit there, but Sidney Brown, I think the upside, and we've talked about it on this show, take the Band-Aid off, get him out there. I know he's dealing with the injury now, but when he's back, if he's eventually going to be an answer for you, I always like to do this sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I think that's right. Let's do one more before we start to transition to Baldy. Player most likely to take a step back. I mean, you take a shot at Brandon Graham. I don't think that was necessary.
Not a shot.
It's nothing short of remarkable that he returned from a ruptured Achilles tendon on his 13th season and reached double-digit sacks for the first time in his career. But he will remain a contributor. It's unrealistic to expect the type of production from him again this season. I mean, he's just standing there laughing on the sideline. You don't need to be telling Brandon Graham he's not going to be as productive.
Brandon Graham would tell you Brandon Graham would tell you he's playing a smaller role this year, but they're keeping him fresh. He's helping the younger guys. He's leaving games feeling healthy. He's helping where he can. So I think that was spot on. I
don't know about that. Well,
yeah.
I mean, the production but it was obvious that he was not going to be like the same sack production level. It's really the quality of play, and I don't think that the quality of play has taken that much of a step back.
Yeah, I'm going to walk in tonight. I'm going to walk into home, and Emily's going to say like, man,
what has gotten into you, Zachary Berman?
Are you strutting right now? Yeah. Like, are you feeling good about yourself?
Went on the kisser.
Yeah, like you're not. You're not going to sit in the shower for an hour, just contemplating your life decisions. Like, what's going on?
Calling everybody in your phone book.
yeah, seriously.
Good. So, I'm glad we could give this to you. Yeah, this is a gift to Emily.
This is a fun exercise today.
I said the corners. The starters on the outside are over 30, and they were so good last season that it's only fair to expect some kind of regression. Add on a pass rush that can't be as sack proficient as it was a season ago, and a much stronger schedule of opposing quarterbacks, and we should probably downgrade our expectations a bit. I think that also has sort of held up well with what we've seen through the first third/quarter of the season. All right.
Well done.
Before we get to Baldy, we've got to talk a little bit about Game Time, because buying tickets to your favorite events should not be stressful. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you'll have. Flash deals and last-minute tickets, easy to find and buy tickets for every kind of event in your area. Images of seat views, the lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, job loss protection, and more, all that good stuff. It is the fastest growing ticketing app in the country for a reason. Buy tickets in a matter of seconds, just 2 taps, and you're set. Tickets are sent directly to your phone, so you never have to dig through your email. All you got to do is download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code PHLY for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem with code PHLY for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. I'm glad you feel good, Zach.
Yes, I can do 3 hours of this. let's keep going. Let's keep talking about all the other things I got right.
Well, there might be some more as we move on in the episode.
DeAndre Swift. I can keep going on there.
Well, I mean, I am the one who said he might go to the Pro Bowl. You didn't quite go that far,
No,
so maybe you weren't as high on him as you thought you were.
I only give one name though, unlike you, who gives 3 names. Tries to claim credit for all of them. Yeah.
I mean, it means you're playing like a sucker. You gotta.
It just means you're
take your opportunities. Be a volume shooter. What are you looking forward to talking to Baldy about here?
Well, I want to know what the tape says on a handful of issues. Some of these hot button issues that we've discussed, like the red zone, for instance. I know that it's a topic that's come up. It's a topic that you and Jamie discussed post game. I'm curious about that. We talked Jalen Hurts last week. And I want to know what he thought about the tape with Jalen Hurts. Another big topic last week was Sua Opeta. And Sua Opeta, I thought looked good. I want to know what the tape says there. The third wide receiver. I'm real fascinated by Sean Desai. I think we led yesterday's show with it. Sean Desai deserves a ton of credit for the way this defense is playing, and it's a different defense than it was last year, but it's a productive defense. And I want to know what the tape is showing from Sean Desai, the slot situation, and then it's always good to look ahead. I've seen the Jets on TV because they've had national games, but I haven't done so much work. Although I was watching, they were the game the other night. I was watching that, they were the game. Yeah, Thursday last week, right?
Thursday.
Yeah, so I did watch that one. Like Breece Hall. Good
I
player.
like Breece Hall.
Yeah, liked him coming out of Iowa State.
I mean, he was like the top drafted running back. It's not a huge swing, but
I mean, they just lost Vera Tucker. You got Zach Wilson, your boy, back there.
Tiny Tim, the offensive coordinator.
Nathaniel Hackett. Yeah.
Yes.
I really hope, looking ahead to Thursdays, I really hope I get the number 1 pick. I win rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Because I want you to end up with Zach Wilson. You are destined. You are destined to have a team with Zach Wilson.
I would not draft Zach Wilson.
No. Oh, you would have Tanner McKee or Marcus Mariota?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. But then we don't know who won or lost.
Well, all the more reason that I can claim a victory.
You can say if Mariota was there.
If McKee was,
exactly.
absolutely.
Okay.
There's no way I would choose to have Zach Wilson.
You gotta go with the other quarterback. You can't do this game. You can't do a draft with the 2 teams playing in that and not have the other quarterback.
Yes, you can. We draft other backups at other positions.
Who actually play?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
I mean, I drafted Tyler Steen incorrectly the other week, but
you did draft Tyler Steen incorrectly the other week.
Yeah. I mean, it's about showing the strengths of the rosters, not necessarily.
Yeah. It'd be funnier if you went with like Trevor Siemian.
Yeah, that would be funny. Yeah. Or just Aaron Rodgers.
I like a Trevor Siemian.
I know you do. Yeah. Always a tough name to remember how to spell.
Siemien. Is that correct?
Am I what?
Siemien.
Incorrect.
Seimien.
No.
What is it?
Siemin.
It's an A, not an E.
Trevor Siemian.
Siemian, okay. Who preceded your boy, Clayton Thorson, at Northwestern.
Clappin Thorpen.
Clayton Thorson.
That's right. All right, still waiting on Baldy, so why don't we keep rolling down the preseason predictions. Dominant midseason storyline that we are not talking about yet. Zach says defense is harder against top quarterbacks. The Eagles feasted on mediocre or substandard quarterbacks for much of last season, and this year's slate is considerably more difficult. There's a 3-game stretch in which they see Dak Prescott, Patrick Mahomes, and Josh Allen. So much focus goes to how Desai's defense will be different than Jonathan Gannon's, but perhaps more attention should go to the conditions in place that might be difficult for this defense. This feels like you're just sort of setting the stage for like a gain in defense is really what that is.
No, this is actually having some foresight, okay? 5-0 is great, and the Eagles need to be 5-0 because you win the games that you need to win. They've been favored in all these games, but this schedule gets decidedly more difficult. And I think things are going to be, the tenor each week is going to seem different when you have the Cowboys and the Bills and the 49ers, and you go on down that list, the Chiefs in there. So, add the Dolphins to that list. So, although the injury to Devon A. Chain is that's a tough one for them because he's been electric this year, as someone projected. So, I think that that is going to be a dominant midseason storyline. That they're facing a murderer's row of quarterbacks.
I liked the pedantic back and forth you had with somebody on Twitter where you said A-Chain will miss the Eagles play the Dolphins next week. And someone said, no, they don't. And you said very passive-aggressively, this week is not next week. Like
I didn't say that, did I?
You said, next week, not this week. Everybody, thank you for hanging with us if you are still here. And
there we are. It was like a rain delay, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just gonna put on Twitter back after technical difficulties. Baldy's coming up.
Okay. Stone cold newsman that you are. That sounds good. So I don't remember what we were talking about. Zach. We were talking about the.
We were talking about how correct I wasn't in my forecasting. No, we were talking about.
Oh yes,
prediction.
you laying the
Yes.
defense of Jonathan Gannon vis-a-vis this year's defensive performance.
Yes.
You know what, Zach? If you want to really feel good about yourself, you also, if we go back to our season predictions when the schedule came out, you had the Eagles winning their first 4 games.
Well, we should
5 games, first 5 games, and you did predict a loss this week. So let's see if your intellectual consistency
I thought Aaron
stays
Rodgers
there.
was playing, but we'll hear about this week from our man Brian Baldinger.
All right, we've got Baldy. Baldy, sorry for the hold up there. How are you?
I'm good, guys. We get glitches in this world. We just got to work through it. Everything's good. I'm just here in my film room, just going through this past weekend's game. So just trying to get up to date right now.
You look great. We thank you for taking the time. Last week, Baldy, we talked a little bit about the Jalen Hurts as a rusher and how he sort of didn't look the same. Mm-hmm. And this week, we saw it. We saw sort of the vintage 2022 Jalen Hurts. Yep. Do you agree that this was the best game he's played this season and that he sort of had that verve that maybe was missing through the first 4 games?
For sure, Bo. For sure. Whatever's ailing him, I'm not here to, try to figure out just what it was. But, the treatment, the rest, whatever. He looked really good. He had 15 carries, which I still think is too many for him. A lot of them were scrambles. But still, he challenged defenders last week. He turned a corner. He was an effective runner and really added a lot to their offense, I thought.
Baldy, the confounding thing about this offense, they're top 10 in so many categories except red zone. When you watch the film, what's going wrong in the red zone, or what needs to improve in the red zone?
Well, they're 27th in the league, Zach. They've scored 8 touchdowns in 19 attempts. So the numbers are way down. Red zone is it's such a rhythm. It depends, because you could be in the 19-yard line, you're in the red zone. You could be on the goal line, you're in the red zone. So, you have different plays for different parts of that red zone. I can't really put my finger on one thing. They haven't run the ball as well as they have run it in the red zone before. Some of that is Jalen. Last year he set an NFL record for rushing touchdowns. So he hasn't been that type of player through the first 5 weeks. But he does look like he's getting healthier. So that's a big part of it. And then, you just look at how some teams play you. Some teams, you're either going to get quarters defense, you're going to get man to man. There's basically 2 things you're going to get. And then you got to have, the right play on to beat it and to defeat it. And so you saw the frustration from J.C. Kelsey last week on the sideline over it. Until I can't put my finger on, one thing. I just feel like it's a combination of things right now.
Last week, Baldy, you gave us sort of the insight of Lane Johnson texting about how excited he was about how well Sua played. Obviously, they hold Aaron Donald without a sack, without a quarterback hit in this game. It almost seems like there's enough evidence now under Jeff Stoutland of the way that they have handled Aaron Donald, regardless of who is in the lineup. What is sort of as you watch that matchup, what stands out to you about the plan that they had for Aaron Donald?
Well, I'll be honest with you, they never had that plan before that they had Sunday. That's all new. And it really came out of the film room of them watching Aaron Donald last Wednesday just literally ruined the Indianapolis Colts offense, series after series. And so they basically, for the most part, just said, wherever Aaron Donald lines up and wherever he goes, Kelsey, that's where you go. And that's basically what Jason did. Now, you can say that to a lot of centers, but almost nobody moves like Jason Kelsey. You watch him on one particular play. They literally just completely bail out of the middle. And Kelsey's running almost 9 yards backwards with a peta, just chasing after Aaron Donald. And then there was one play where literally you see Lane Johnson, and it's just a freak play, honestly. But
before.
Because it's always a freak play with Lane. There's nobody open. But there's one play in the game. I put it on Twitter on yesterday morning. But Lane Johnson picks up Aaron Donald and he runs him all the way across the other side, past Malata. And I'm looking at that play going, why would you possibly do that? It's a kind of a twist stunt. And I guess evidently Kelsey got caught up inside, couldn't get to Aaron Donald. And so Lane just reacted. His reaction was, I'll just stay on it. He's the most dangerous. I'll just stay on him. And ran him to the other side. And whatever happened on the play, with Jalen, I'm not sure. But they had a plan. They had a plan. It was born. Literally, what they've done in the past out there in L.A. against them is one thing. But I thought they had a different plan, and it really involved Kelsey a great deal. But at the same time, I don't take anything away from Sua. Like, he played great. Like, when he had to, man up against him, and it wasn't often, but when he did, he did. And so Opeta has played great. And, Zach, you probably know better, or Bo, I'm not sure. Like, he's been in the system, I think, 4 years, maybe it's 5. Like, not many people have that luxury of a player that's been in the system, been in those meetings, off seasons, and he's played sparingly. But that's a great quarter and a half that he's played at right guard for the Eagles.
Lane Johnson play was insane. It was looked like a cornerback, picking up the wide receiver coming off the line. I've never seen anything like that. Go ahead, Zach.
If I could follow up on that previous answer, because that was fascinating to me. I've been in the locker room for 12 years, but I've never been in the offensive line room. So you can take me in there. What goes into building that type of game plan? Is it coming from Stoutland? Is it coming from the players? Is it coming from Brian Johnson and Nick Sirianni? How do you kind of rebuild or configure that type of plan that effectively in 3-4 days?
Well, the thing is, Zach, is you have a loose plan that gets introduced on Wednesday. Installation, new plays, emphasis. You have your meeting where you're basically going through personnel, okay? And so you're going through all that, and then you start watching the cut-ups or the clips or the game. I'm sure they just sat there and was watching this Indianapolis game, and they're like, we can't let this happen. We can't let the offensive guard handle Aaron Donald in a 3 technique if the center's sliding away. And so you start talking through it, be honest with you, Zach. And it's almost like, Stoutland's the coach. Okay, but what do you think about this, guys? Or Kelsey's like, Coach, what do you think about this? Or Lane's like, hey, Coach, we can't let this happen. So I think, the fact that you have such veteran, some teams have veteran players, Zach, but they don't have all-pro veteran players. You got an 11-year veteran in Lane, and then 12 or 13 with Kelsey. Like, you got guys that have been around this league a long, long time. And then, Stoutland's been there every day since Lane's been there. They came together. So there's a great deal of input and a great deal of trust with what they have to say about a particular player. Because at the end of the day, Zach, Brian can put on a game plan and Nick can tweak it and Stout can have this, but the players got to execute it. And they know what Aaron Donald is capable of doing. And so you just don't – and they have other good players too. Leonard Floyd's a great player. Like, they got other good players that are having great seasons. But you don't want that guy to ruin your offense. And I think that's kind of how it was born.
Interesting. We've heard so much over the years about those meetings and how, Kelsey is willing to be combative with Stout in those meetings in terms of what he thinks will work on the field. And we've heard so much about how Isaac Seumalo was like the other guy who was seen as the other genius in the room, right? And so with him gone, to have a guy like Opeta, who, as you said, Baldy, has been in the room and been part of those conversations, not to say that like Cam Jurgens would have done that. He got to watch it last year, but maybe there is some value to just a guy who's been in those meetings for so long.
Well, it's interesting. I remember when Nate Herbig and Jordan Mailata were kind of just starting out together. And, they got on the field, and they had some, missed assignments or bad technique or whatever. And they would literally go into, Monday's meetings, and they would have a competition, like who's going to get it worse from Stout, like which guy was getting it worse today. And it was almost like a badge of honor. Like, you're getting coached by the best. Like, he's doing this to make you better. And it's not like he's leaving Lane out of those sessions either. Like, there's respect there for Lane. But, I mean, Stout coaches hard. And, some players respond. Some players don't respond. They have a guy now that's, starting in another city. He didn't respond very well when Stout got on him. And so I think it builds the thickness and the calluses a little bit to handle some of those things. But it's all based on performance. And so, Stout is even Zach, you guys going to be up there in New York this weekend. So, they'll be on MetLife Stadium, and, you'll see Dickerson and Mailata with Stout and out, 2 hours for kickoff, just going through bag drills, just running fundamentals, like reminders, like, okay, the Jets do this. When Bryce Huff is here, walks for this. And they're just walking through stunts and assignments. And like really the teaching, it never ends. And that's why if you throw Driscoll in there right now, if you throw Pettit in there right now, if you throw some of these guys in there, I don't know what Tyler Steen's like yet, but they spoke highly of him in preseason. Like these guys, there isn't a big drop-off when they go in there.
I'm going to see another good defensive tackle coming this week in Quinnen Williams. Speaking of young defensive tackles, Baldy, the one guy I want to ask you about is Jordan Davis, who the first 2 weeks, I thought it was one of the most encouraging things we saw from this team was Jordan Davis taking that step as a pass rusher and becoming an impact player in that part of his game. It feels like that has quieted down a little bit over the past 3-4 games. He didn't play, he played fewer snaps than Milton Williams in this game with Fletcher Cox out. What do you see from Jordan Davis at this stage of the season?
Well, he was invisible last week, to be honest with you, Bo. I mean, that's a game where Marlon's out and Fletcher's out. So your defensive rotation, which has been 5 thick, throughout the season, has now been reduced. And so, you're expected to step up. Obviously, Jalen goes in there and he's just a monster. But you just have not seen it from Jordan. Now, is that just fatigue? Is that getting into the season? Is there something, nagging at him right here? But you haven't seen any of the physical blunt force that I saw, that you saw, against New England, that you saw early in the season right now. I haven't seen it in the last 2 weeks.
In speaking about the defense, Sean Desai had a game plan there that did better against the Rams than any other team they've seen this year. What are you seeing from Sean Desai's defense overall, and the blitzing in particular? It's more than we've seen with the Eagles in recent years.
It's actually amazing, Zach, because, against Washington, obviously they weren't very good. Commanders go down the field in the final minute 30, scoring the final play. Like nobody wants that on the resume. Nobody. And so, in that game, they played Bradbury in the nickel a lot. And he looked – I'm not saying he was lost. He's a veteran player. But he's not a nickel. And so they go out and they get Bradley Roby off the street. They're starting Eli Ricks in there. Josh Jobe is out. Like, he didn't play last week. Like, they juggled the whole secondary. Edmonds is out. Evans is in. Like, they really – Roby goes in and plays a number of snaps. He's in the nickel. Goodrich is in the nickel. Like, I just think they're just trying to find players. Like, Avante's absence, really has made this team adjust a great deal in probably ways they weren't expecting just because he was just that good. So I feel like last week they blitzed a lot, and I think you have to because the timing between Stafford and both Cooper Kupp and Nakua is just – it's just uncanny. What the timing and what he believes in those two guys. And they didn't really hurt him that bad. They had catches, but it's not like they got over the top on him. And so I think, the two linebackers in Cunningham and Morrow played real well. But they really are trying to figure out the secondary right now. And that looks like that might continue to juggle, although they played a lot better last week than they had.
Last one for you, Baldy, before we let you go. Give us the sort of top-line scouting report on this Jets team. What is going to be keeping Nick Sirianni up at night this week?
Well, a couple things. I'm very close to that team. I'm actually going up there tomorrow morning to do something with Salah. But this Sunday will be the 4th straight week that it looks like they're going to line up the same offensive line group, although they lost AVT last week. And so I'm not sure if Vera Tucker is going to play right tackle. They had Max Mitchell in there, so it might not. But I'd be concerned about Breece Hall. Like, Breece Hall's got a run this year of 83 yards, 43 yards, 72-yard touchdown last week. Like, if you don't get him at the line of scrimmage and you let him get in the secondary, he's got breakaway speed and he's very elusive. So that would keep me up. And then defensively, they changed their fronts up a lot. Jermaine Johnson is a handful for either tackle. Bryce Huff is just a pure European Bugatti coming off the edge. Quinnen Williams, if you don't double team him, I don't care who he's going against, he's going to win. They're 8 deep on the defensive line. I think the two linebackers right now, in Quincy Williams and C.J. Mosley, are playing as good in tandem as just about anybody in the league. And so last week, Denver never tested the secondary. They didn't really test Sauce Gardner. They didn't really test E.J. Reed. But they're very, very good back there. I would say that The Eagles obviously love the deep ball. I would say, like, go after their safeties. Make the safeties play the ball in the air. Like, Sauce and DJ are good, but you need safety help over the top on some of these throws. Like, I would think they're going to take their share of deep shots like they always do. But I would say if they're going to beat this Jets team and beat them like I think they want to beat them, they're going to need the deep ball in order to do that.
All right. Great insight as always from Brian Baldinger of the NFL Network. Baldy, thank you so much. We'll talk to you next week.
Yep. Okay, guys. Enjoy the game, man. I'll see you on Sunday. Take care.
Thanks, Baldy. Well, Zach, let's talk a little bit about FOCO before we get to the reaction from Brian Baldinger. FOCO is a leading manufacturer of sports and entertainment merchandise with a product line that includes apparel, accessories, toys, collectibles, novelty items, and more. It's the best officially licensed gear for all sports and fandoms. It's football and tailgating season. Overalls, hoodies, hats, sunglasses, bags, everything you need for a game. FOCO has hooked PHLY up and provided awesome pieces for our sets. FOCO always has our back for Philly sports, and they have yours too. Get the best gear around by using the link in our description. For all non-presale items, use the promo code PHLY for 10% off. Good stuff from Baldy there.
I loved that hit from Baldy, and I'll tell you why. The answer about putting the game plan together for Aaron Donald, it's always good to get analysis about what they see, right? I love when you can get analysis about what they can experience, like what it's like to put that plan together, because none of us have lived it. Baldy's lived it. He knows what it's like in that offensive line room. So that was my favorite part of our conversation, was him talking about what the veterans were doing, meeting with Jeff Stoutland, how they put that plan together, how it was a different plan than what they did when they've stopped Aaron Donald in the past. I mean, I was like a kid in the candy store when he was talking there. I want to write a story about that. That's awesome.
All right. Well, maybe you can do that on allphly.com, Zach. All right. Last thing I want to talk to you about before we get going. We did the look back at the predictions from before the season. I want you to make a prediction on one superlative for the rest of the season. Okay. This is a similar question.
Yes.
Who is the player who will be more relevant for the rest of the season, or over the second half of the season, let's say, than he is now? And I can give you some options, or you can tell me who else comes to mind. I think Sidney Brown is a possibility here. N'Kobe Dean would be an obvious answer. He hasn't played.
Yeah, no, I have one on the tip of my tongue.
Okay. I think you can make a case for Nolan Smith.
That's
is
who I
he
was
the
going
guy
to
who's
say.
going to be a bigger factor? You could say Marcus Mariota if we get the annual Jalen Hurts injury. Keely Ringo maybe gets into things a little bit, but Nolan is the guy who you have on Nervous Nolan, as we see in the chat.
Is that what they call him, Nervous Nolan?
Nervous Nolan Bison. That's a book about a potty training young bison looking to poop on the potty for the first time.
Never read that book.
It's written by a listener.
I got to read it. Thank you very much. I'm going to put that in my shopping cart.
We had Jane potty training this weekend.
How did that go?
Went pretty well.
Nice. Good for you guys.
This is our second crack at it.
No pun intended.
Nice. Talking about a almost 3-year-old girl. Nice.
Okay, Nolan Smith. Nolan Smith. I think Nolan Smith because, first off, I think the learning curve for edge rushers is lower than it is at other positions. Run toward the quarterback. I think he has the athletic traits. I think they're going to continue to trust him. There could be injuries at that position, and he moves up the depth chart. And I really liked what I saw from Nolan Smith this summer. I know he was going up against backup offensive linemen when he was doing it, but I think Nolan Smith's playing time is going to continue to increase, and I think run toward the quarterback. He has the physicality. Yeah, I'm going with when we're doing a show, week 15, okay, in December, on the Tuesday show of week 15, we will be talking about Nolan Smith. Record this, put this, you can make this a drop. Week 15, the Tuesday show, we'll be talking about Nolan Smith.
I mean, that's something that you can just make true because you can just talk about Nolan Smith.
We'll be talking about Nolan Smith for good reason. Nolan Smith will make a play that will compel us to talk about him.
I have an aesthetic, not complaint, but note on Nolan Smith.
The no gloves?
Yeah, I feel like he's not good enough yet to wear no gloves.
Really?
Yeah, like he's not Reggie White, you know? Like let's let's go do something first before we make such an aesthetic choice.
Oh, I disagree. So when I
it's
played,
like when
I
the
played baseball,
Kelceys talk about the tight ends wearing no gloves. Like you're just making it harder for yourself.
No, so when I played baseball, right, and I wasn't very good on a team of very good players.
Famously played against Matt Ryan.
And we were number 10 in the country by USA Today, number 8 by Collegiate Baseball. But just a little flex there.
Yeah.
I didn't wear batting gloves, and I kind of took pride in not wearing batting gloves.
Sure.
Yeah.
You're a big Moses Alou fan. You peed on your hands before the game.
First of all, it was Moises, not Moses. Okay.
I said Moises.
You said Moses.
I said Moises.
made him
He
a
was one of my
biblical
favorite
character.
players. I said Moises.
So yeah, I did not wear batting gloves. So you strike me as like a batting glove guy.
No,
You struck me as someone who had all the gear.
No, I went back and forth. Sometimes
Okay.
because I was an Alou fan.
Okay.
I did try to go no batting gloves, but batting gloves are better.
It depends,
It's easy to wear no batting gloves, Zach, when you're sitting on the bench.
That is accurate. That is accurate. But look, I care about, it's about we before me. We were 32-2. Okay. And there's a good reason why I was on the bench.
Yeah. Okay.
The guys in front of me were better.
All right. That'll do it for this episode of the PHLY Eagles podcast. We got Coach sitting crisscross applesauce on the floor there. He's got to get up and get out of here. So we will talk to you on Thursday and Friday, and then, of course, the pre- and post-game show on Sunday. So thank you once again to Brian Baldinger. Sorry again for the technical difficulties. We'll get that all pieced together and get it sorted out. And we look forward to talking to you on Thursday. So for Zach and Bree and Coach and Emily, I hope you and Baldy and Emily, I hope you enjoy the new Zach that comes home today with his chest puffed out, feeling very good about himself. And we will talk to you on Thursday. As always, we love you.